Good morning, students. Students, as in my previous video, I discussed about monohybrid cross, and today I will discuss two different laws which were proposed by Gregor John Mendel, father of genetics, based on the monohybrid cross or inheritance of one gene. So yesterday in my previous video, I told you that monohybrid cross is a kind of cross in which only one character is observed. As I mentioned earlier that while Mendel was performing his experiment, he found that there are seven different characteristics, ठीक है, having 14 different contrasting traits. But while he was performing his experiment, he observed only one character. So out of seven characters, while he was observing only one character, and the character, suppose I am giving you one example of height, plant's height. Suppose he was observing only the plant height. He was not observing another six characters. So in his mind there was only one character, and the character was only height. While he was observing only height, then the cross will be referred as monohybrid cross. And while he was observing the only single character during the monohybrid cross, he observed few things, and on the basis of his conclusion he concluded two different laws. And now today I will discuss what are these two laws. Now before starting two different laws, now once go through these diagrams, you are observing there are two plants. One plant is tall and the second one plant is dwarf. As I mentioned earlier that for every character there are two genes which are referred as alleles. Now here you are observing that for tall plant two alleles or two genes are capital T and capital T, while for dwarf plant there are two alleles which are small t and small t. Now during the gamete formation these alleles will become separate from each other, yani ki in one gamete only one allele will be present. So here in the case of the tall plant there are two gametes. Gametes means, suppose it's a male plant, so here gamete will be sperm in simple words, or pollen. Okay, there are two gametes, each of the gamete is containing capital T, a type of allele. Similarly, the suppose the dwarf plant is a female plant and it is producing egg, so each egg or ovum is containing a small t kind of allele. While in the fertilization process, capital T will fuse with the small t, and here the four probabilities are possible, and in each probability the capital T will fuse with the small t, and all the plants in the first filial 1f generation or f1 generation they will be tall. Now we are using these plants as a parent. Now you are observing both of the plants are tall and both are mentioned here as a capital T and small t. It means it's a hybrid tall. Okay, now once again the gametes are going to separate, small t and capital T and small t you are observing there, and once again they are fusing together. So in the F2 generation or filial 2 generation you are observing capital T will fuse with capital T and it will fall capital T and capital T. Capital T will fuse with small t, then two conditions are possible, then there are capital T small t, capital T small t, and there is one probability when small t will fuse with small t, and one generation will be dwarf. So if you will observe three plants are tall and one plant is dwarf, तो the phenotypic मतलब बाहर से देखने में कोई प्लांट कैसा नज़र आ रहा है उसको हम फिनोटिपिक रेशियो बोलते हैं. तो फिनोटिपिक रेशियो तीन टॉल प्लांट है, वन आपका डवार्फ प्लांट है, तो 3:1 इज द फिनोटिपिक रेशियो. वाइल जीनोटिपिक रेशियो आप देखो, एक कैपिटल टी है तो वन, दो कैपिटल टी स्मॉल टी, दो कंडीशन ऐसी हैं तो टू, एंड स्मॉल टी एक है, तो यानी कि जीनोटिपिक रेशियो आपका 1:2:1 हो गया. ठीक है. ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ दिस एक्सपेरिमेंट ही propose two laws. देखिए, in F1 generation you are observing only the tall plants are there. There is not a single plant which one is dwarf. So we can conclude that while two parents having two contrasting traits of a character are crossed together in F1 generation, only one character expresses itself. So it is mentioned here. This law states that when two alternative forms of the traits or characters are present in an organism, only one factor, in such case only tall plants are observing. You are not you will not observe any dwarf plant in the F1 generation. It means only one of the trait is going to express itself, and the trait which is going to express itself is called dominant trait, and the trait which is unable to express itself, it is called recessive trait. So here in such case, the tall character is, or the tall trait is dominant, and dwarf which is unable to express itself, it is called recessive trait. ठीक है? So this is the first law, law of dominance. And while in the now you will be surprised. Now observe in the second case. Now tall plant is crossed with the tall plant. There is no one is dwarf plant, but in the F1 F2 generation you are observing that after the cross you are observing one dwarf plant. Now दोनों में मम्मी भी डैडी भी दोनों के दोनों टॉल, और बट एक ऑफस्प्रिंग इनकी डॉर्फ हो रही है, तो ये कैसे हो गया? इट वाज मेंडल वाज क्वाइट सरप्राइज. तो आफ्टर दैट, आफ्टर हिज एनालिसिस, ही फाइनलाइज दैट अब जब भी क्या होता है, सेक्सुअल रिप्रोडक्शन होता है, तो सेक्सुअल रिप्रोडक्शन के बाद जब भी क्रॉस हो रहा होता है तो क्रॉस से पहले गैमेट बनते हैं. तो गैमेट बनते समय क्या होते हैं, जो दो एलील प्रेजेंट हैं किसी भी प्लांट के पास, वो इंडिपेंडेंटली एक दूसरे से सेपरेट होते हैं. ठीक है? दिस इज दैट्स वाई लॉ ऑफ सेग्रीगेशन. सेग्रीगेशन का मतलब होता है सेपरेट होना. तो इट इज मेंशनड हियर. लॉ ऑफ प्योरिटी और लॉ ऑफ सेग्रीगेशन स्टेट्स दैट दिस लॉ, अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस लॉ, द फैक्टर्स और द एलिल्स, फैक्टर्स का मतलब है यहाँ पे जीन्स, जीन्स को ही हम एलिल्स बोलते हैं, ऑफ अ पेयर ऑफ द फैक्टर्स और द एलिल्स ऑफ अ पेयर सेग्रीगेट फ्रॉम ईच अदर ड्यूरिंग द गैमेट formation. Such a gamete receives only one of the two factors. Since we know that for a single character there are two alleles or two genes or two factors. factors को ही genes बोलते हैं, factors को ही alleles बोलते हैं. ठीक है? तो यानी कि जब गैमेट फॉर्मेशन का टाइम आ रहा है तो ये दोनों के दोनों फैक्टर एक दूसरे से इंडिपेंडेंटली सेपरेट होते हैं. एंड दिस लॉ इज शो एज नोन एज लॉ ऑफ segregation. I am just concluding myself today right now. I hope so you understood the concept. Once again I will meet you in the next video. Till then, thank you, bye bye, and have a nice day.